Well, welcome parents and students of Year 12 2022 to our HSC information evening in the new normal. I'm coming to you from the Jericho and Jerusalem rooms here at Good Samaritan, and whilst you're at home, we know that this opportunity will work. It worked last year, it worked with our Year 10 subject selection interviews in 2020 and 2021, and it's also worked in our Year 8 subject selections. So whilst we can't meet in person, the time for that is coming very close, and we're looking forward to that. But like our students, we adapt, we get used to the new normal. And I'd also like to thank you all very much for your support during the COVID period and the long lockdown that we've just recently endured in New South Wales. However, once again, as I often reflect, we're very lucky to live in Australia where, despite the pandemic, the number of people who have sadly died is significant for us, but nowhere near the scale across the rest of the world. I'm talking to you tonight to give you a few messages about the HSC year of 2022, which has begun. I'm pleased to say that the Year 11 teachers, Year 12 teachers in fact, that I've spoken to really have said that your sons and daughters have engaged with the online learning in a synchronous mode, that is, each period by the timetable over the first few weeks of Term 4, 2021, leading into the HSC exam of 2022. At Good Samaritan, we want the very best for each of our students, no matter what pathway that they're on in the HSC year, their final year of school. As you would know at Good Samaritan, we offer a range of opportunities, and in the main, students at Good Samaritan are pursuing a HSC ATAR pathway, where they're aiming to receive an ATAR at the end of next year that will enable them entrance to university. That's about 80% of our students. 20% of our students are pursuing what we would call our HSC training and workplace pathway, where at the end of Year 12, they'll have their HSC credential, potentially some frameworks from the VET competencies that they've been doing, and they will move into further training or to the workforce or apprenticeships at the beginning of 2023 or the very end of 2022. So what I wanted to talk to you about was personal success, and it doesn't matter what pathway you're on, or even if you're on a blended pathway. As you can see on the slide, the HSC is a juggling act. It requires balance with your family. It requires careful attention to detail. Words are important. We don't talk about dropping subjects at Good Samaritan. We talk about withdrawing from them. We don't talk about free periods at Good Samaritan. We talk about study periods where we lay out some work to do, some competencies to achieve, references or CVs that are being done, so that in each and every opportunity that we have here at Good Sam, we're working towards a great educational outcome for the end of 2022 for the world that lies beyond the gates of Good Samaritan. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about was study. Often parents will say, what is the right amount of study? Students will stress that they're doing not enough, too much, or they're doing it in the wrong ratios. On average, in the HSC year, students heading towards a HSC ATAR pathway should be aiming for about an average of 3 hours of homework a night across the 7 days, so about 21 hours for the week. Now, plainly, at the beginning of the year, that might not be possible. Right now, you might not be doing that much. But as the term unfolds and next year, you're going to be able to achieve that goal of 21 hours a week by a range of homework, study, organising your notes, doing further research. You know, if it's history, you're watching the History Channel. It might be watching National Geographic Channel if it's got something on that's appropriate for biology. All of those things count. So you're looking at that as an important part of your preparation, your study timetable for Year 12 for the 2022 HSC. And of course, you have some study periods, many of you, at school. And of course, we have sport on a Thursday next year, a Tuesday currently, and you've got an opportunity there of 2 hours every week, which equates to 20 hours across the term, which is a fair chunk of your study time already done. So at Good Samaritan, with the structures we already have in place, we're hoping that your sons and daughters and students you in Year 12 are actually able to get into a good habit right here at school as usual on a Tuesday, and next year when sport is on a Thursday, as it will be in all Catholic schools across Sydney. The other question that parents often ask, and students can also be in the middle of, is how much part-time work should I do if I've got a part-time job across the HSC year? Studies would indicate that up to about 10 hours a week of work is really valuable for an individual's well-being, for their sense of self-worth, to earn some money. So that having a part-time job can be an excellent thing, but like in the HSC, all things must be balanced. If you're doing 25 or 30 hours a week of part-time work, it's late at night, meaning you're not finishing your shifts till midnight or 1 o'clock, and then you're trying to back up to school the next day at 8:30, that plainly is not going to be sustainable, and it's not going to lead to a good outcome in your HSC at the end of 2022. So, as I've said, studies would suggest about 10 hours is the right balance. Of course, during holiday periods, that you could do a little bit more, but then of course the balance of that would be that during assessment periods when things are a little bit pressured, that you might do a little bit less, and you need to have confidence to be able to say to your employer that you're a HSC student and that you are going to be available at different times that's going to advantage them, but on some occasions you might need to draw back a little bit from your work commitments. The other thing that's very important to remember, and certainly as we're moving out of lockdown now in New South Wales, is exercise and sport. I can't underline enough how important it is to have a regular exercise regime or involvement in a sporting club or sporting team so that you've got valuable time outside de-stressing, being fit and being well, and really having that different break from your study. 2022 will be my 33rd HSC, 32 as a teacher and my own in 1984, which if you've worked out the maths was a long time ago. People will ask, what are the ingredients for success in the HSC year? And I think there's 3 things that I could pinpoint that are really important. You've got to start with the end in mind. What are you looking to achieve at the end of 2022? And I hope it is the same as my wish for you, students of Year 12, is that you achieve greatly in your HSC year and that you get the best possible educational outcomes at the end of 2022. Now that might be an excellent ATAR result. It might be that you've got your AQF in Human Services. It might mean that you've gained an apprenticeship in October of this year, of your HSC year. So starting with the end in mind is really important. What are your goals? Set them, adjust your strategies to meet them, and that way you're going to do really well at the end of the year. Appearance counts. The way that you present yourself to your teachers, to your employer, to your family, and ultimately to those that you're aiming to end up with at the end of 2022, whether it be university or whether it be the workplace or training or an apprenticeship, it's important. Little things count. If we find in Catholic schools particularly, that if you get your uniform expectations right, if you've got self-discipline to be well-groomed, if you're punctual, we tend not to have very big problems. But if you let those things slide, those little standards go, then we find that bigger issues start to creep in. So please understand that we have strong expectations here at Good Sam about the way that you present yourself, about your grooming, about the way that you are here punctually and that you attend classes and you're on time. Those things count and will add up, and certainly employers find those really key things. The second thing I would encourage you across this HSC year into 2022 is to seek feedback. Take it on board, adjust what you're doing to achieve the feedback that your teachers are suggesting to you, follow that advice, and of course model your answers on what is fed back to you so that you can achieve the best possible result in your HSC tasks, and for those of you sitting exams, the HSC of November 2022. The last thing I wanted to point out as a key thing, as the slide says about being present, is attendance. There is no substitute in your HSC year for being anywhere else other than in class with your teacher who is the expert in your subject and your classmates. That is the perfect recipe for success. At our HSC High Achievers Assembly each year, you would note that those students who achieve high ATARs or who gain apprenticeships and traineeships and win VET awards are those students who have attendance higher than 90%. Now you might sit back there and say, oh geez, 90% is not bad, but it actually isn't. 90% across the HSC means that you've missed 20 days of schools. It means that you've been here for 180 days, but missed 20. So 90% is not a bad figure, but we really should be aiming at 95% unless you are unwell. It's really important that you're here with your classmates and with your teachers, working consistently across the HSC year. Leaving it all to the last minute is a recipe for disaster. And to parents, please do not accept from your daughter or son the old line that if I don't go today, I'm going to do more at home than I will at school. That never adds up to a recipe for success. The last thing I would say now is that there are no holidays for Year 12 for the next 12 months. Any time you have a break from school is an opportunity to study, to recharge your batteries, organise your notes, and be refreshed for the new term and the work that's coming up. Working ahead where you can in the subjects that makes sense. Just a quick observation from the HSC about pathways. I've mentioned at Good Samaritan we have the HSC ATAR pathway and a HSC training and workplace pathway, and of course some students are doing a blend of the two. The young lady on your screen on your left there finished school in Year 11 in 2017 in country New South Wales. She decided that school was not for her, and she ended up working at Lismore Base Hospital and earning, in 2017 terms, $3.20 an hour. And you might think that that wasn't a very clever pathway, or it was something that was not going to lead to her to great things. You can see from the photograph on your left there that by the time she'd finished her educational journey, which included working as a receptionist, then as a health administrator, and then going to university, that she's ended up as a barrister. The key thing that Shana says in the article that's really important, I think, is that she worked hard. It didn't matter whether she was working hard as a receptionist, as a medical administrator, as a part-time student, or then as a full-time university student. It was the key ingredient for success. Working hard, working smart, and making sure that as you set goals, that you work incrementally at them. Every little thing that you do will make a difference and add up to a big difference at the end of this year. Foundations for a HSC ATAR pathway success are very much like a building. As you can see there, that is our College Hall in 2010. It doesn't look like much at the minute, but those foundations, plainly, have resulted in a building that we're using some 10 years later that's withstanded a number of floods and fires and safely takes all of us in when we need to be there. So a couple of things to note for those of you on a HSC ATAR pathway. The first thing you must understand is that English, the compulsory subject at Good Samaritan, along with religion, must count as a very integral part of your ATAR. The first things that the University's Admission Centre, or UAC, does is take your English mark and puts that as your first mark in the calculation of your ATAR. It does not matter if English is your middlemost mark, your bottommost mark, it goes first. In the calculation of your ATAR, it must count. So I know that some students love modern history, or they love timber, or they love hospitality, or they love physics. That's fantastic. But the thing that often happens is that you push the subject that is compulsory to the side and think, I've got to do that, but I'll get to it. That is not a good strategy. Please make sure that you pay attention to English, give it the same time of every other subject, and make sure that you take on the feedback that your English teachers give you, because it is foundational for every other subject. If you can't read the question accurately, if you can't respond to the question in writing, it's not going to hold you in good stead for your results at the end of 2022. So English is a really important subject for you to get right. Learn to love it. Secondly, those of you doing studies of religion here would know that at Good Samaritan, religion is a compulsory part of the curriculum. And a lot of you would think, oh, I'm doing studies of religion. It's a bit like English. I've got to do it, but I'll get to it when I get to it. It is a subject that we do very well at Good Samaritan. It value adds to your ATAR result incredibly. Very, very clearly in analysing results, many students here at Good Samaritan have studies of religion in the top 3 subjects that contribute to their ATAR, whether it be 1 unit or 2 unit. So it's really important that for those 2 compulsory subjects that you pay them appropriate attention. For those of you on a HSC training and workplace pathway, the foundations, just like the ones for the ATAR and shown here in the slide of the hall at a later stage, are really important, and they're very similar. Value add to yourself. Make yourself attractive to employers in terms of your competencies that you achieve, your attendance rate, the comments that you receive on your reports, your attendance at school. Many times employers will look first, not at results, not at comments, but attendance. For an employer, being available, being present at work is an excellent quality that they're looking for. So, time. All of my HSC students and those that I've been involved with in my teaching career, at their conclusion of school time, would say the same thing to the question when teachers ask them, when parents say to them, after your experience of the HSC, what's the one thing that you'd want? And as you can see on the slide there, the one thing that they ask for is time. If only they'd spent their time a little bit more wisely, if only they'd had a little bit more time, they'd feel that they were better prepared. That's a picture from Cuzco in South America. Not the cartoon place, the actual place of Cuzco. And as you can see in the background, it's an ancient city of Incans. And in South America, they've got a habit of putting on their pedestrian signs, much like that started to appear in Australia, of about how much time you've got left before the lights change, before you need to stop, or before you can start. And one of the books that I studied in my HSC was A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. And it starts very clearly with the lines that you can see on the screen there. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, it was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity, it was the season of light, it was the season of darkness, it was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. And thus Dickens begins the story. For you, I think you need to understand that the pandemic that we've just been through is the epoch of incredulity. It is a time of darkness, but we've emerged from that. And what you need to do now, and you of all HSC classes must clearly understand that time is essential to your well-being, it's essential to your socialisation, and of course time spent at school is very, very much going to be the key indicator for your success at the end of this year. Please do not be distracted by social media, by Tumblr, by Flickr, by Facebook, by YouTube, by Snapchat, by Insta, whatever it is. Please make sure that you don't lose time, because once you've lost it, you can't get it back. Give the phone to someone else. Use some software to lock yourself out. Take your time to be immersed in your learning so that you can get the best possible results that you can at the end of 2022. Thank you very much for your time. Whilst we're not in person, you can watch this again and pick up on the acronyms and the things that Mr. Vannon's going to speak about shortly that are very, very important that you might miss if this is your first HSC student. And of course, if this is your second or third or fourth student or son or daughter going through the HSC, things have changed a little bit from all those HSCs. So it is important that if you can, have an opportunity to rewind and have a look at things again, particularly that Mr. Vannon covers, because some of them get quite technical. We're really looking forward to the development of the Year 12 class of 2022. We're looking forward to the character that they develop and the way that they lead our college, very importantly in this period when our Year 7s, 8s and 9s of 2022 have all had interrupted years to their learning. Our Year 12s are going to be crucial in leadership of the college simply because they know how we do things at Good Samaritan, what success that leads to, and the very important way in which they need to pass that on to our junior students. Our last slide there, and I've been very conscious of this across the last 2 years, is to make sure that our well-being is front and centre of our mind. If we are well in ourselves, we're going to achieve well in our work, in our study, in our relationships, and of course in our time together. So a couple of links there. The slides will be made available. They are also available on the news feed. And we can't wait to really reintegrate the whole school back together when we can be, once again, a whole community in person. And we look forward to 2022 with great excitement, given the challenges that we've faced across 2020 and more lately, 2021. Thanks very much.